Good morning, guys. Happy blessed last day of June. It's Tuesday, the 30th of June. Welcome back to Storyteller's Corner. We're going back now to our romance and scandalous story set in Victorian England. It's a story between a chauffeur and the lady he works for, Lady Caroline. The chauffeur's name is Thomas. So this is chapter 26. It's called The Crossroads, where decisions must be made. So the old oak stood in silence as twilight deepened around them. Its bare branches stretched across the winter sky like the arms of time itself, witnessing yet another impossible choice. Thomas still held the letter in his hand, the offer, a new position in the north of England, respectable and secure, far enough away that the whispers in London would eventually fade into memory. Caroline looked at the folded paper. It seemed so small, so ordinary, yet it possessed the power to separate two lives forever. "When must you answer?" she asked quietly. Thomas lowered his eyes. "By the end of a week." Neither spoke for several moments. The cold evening breeze stirred the last brown leaves, clinging stubbornly to the old oak. "I have thought about little else," Thomas admitted. "I imagine every possible future." He smiled faintly. "In none of them did everyone walk away happy." Caroline stepped closer. "Did any of them leave us together?" He met her gaze. "Yes. They were also the hardest." She was surprised. Somehow she had already known. "I could leave," he said softly. "You would remain Lady Caroline Wimborne in time. The rumours would die. Society would forgive what it believed was merely a foolish season. And you?" Thomas gave a quiet laugh. "I would become a man who spent the rest of his life wondering." The words settled heavily between them. Caroline reached out instinctively, then stopped herself before her hands touched his. Old habits of caution still lingered. Thomas noticed. Slowly, gently closed the remaining distance and took her gloved hand in his. Not hidden, not in desperation, simply because neither wished to pretend any more. "My greatest fear," he said, "is not losing my position." She looked at him. "It's becoming the reason you lose your happiness." Caroline's eyes glistened. "You still believe those are the same things?" He frowned slightly. "They are not." She shook her head. "I thought happiness was something given to me by the life chosen for me." A sad smile touched her lips. "Then I met a man who opened carriage doors and somehow opened my heart instead." Thomas smiled, deprived himself. "I fear that it's the most flattering description anyone has ever given my profession." She laughed, a clear warm laugh that neither of them had heard from her in weeks. For one precious moment the weight of scandal disappeared. They were simply two people sharing a winter evening. Then the church bells in the distance marked the hour. Reality returned. Thomas released her hand reluctantly. "There's something you deserve to know." "What is it?" "I have not accepted the position." Relief flashed across her face, but neither have I refused it. She nodded. "Are you waiting?" "Yes." "For me?" Thomas hesitated. "No." A faint smile. "For us." Before Caroline could answer, hurried footsteps sounded along the garden path. Both turned. It was Hawthorne. His usually composed face carried an urgency neither of them had ever seen. "Mr. Reed." Thomas straightened immediately. "Sir?" Hawthorne stopped before them, catching his breath. "My lady." He inclined his head respectfully towards Caroline. "I am sorry to interrupt." His expression grew grave. "But you must both come at once." Thomas's heart sank. "What has happened?" Hawthorne looked towards the house. "The newspapers." A cold silence fell. "What about them?" Caroline asked. Hawthorne answered quietly. "A society column has printed your name." Neither moved. "It mentions Lady Caroline Wimborne and an unnamed gentleman in her household." The rumours had escaped the drawing rooms. It had reached print. There are no names beyond yours, Hawthorne continued, looking at Caroline. But people will begin guessing. He turned to Thomas, and they will not have many guesses to make. Caroline felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Until now there had still been hope that the whispers might remain private. That hope was gone. Thomas looked towards the distant light of Whitmore House, then back at Caroline. His voice was calm, steady and resolute. It begins. Caroline slipped her hand into his once more, only for a heartbeat. Hidden by the gathering darkness. No, she whispered. Looking into his eyes with a courage she had not known she had possessed, it doesn't begin. A gentle determined smile appeared. It changes. Together they turned towards a house where family difficult conversations and the judgment of London awaited them. And somewhere on the printing press, ink was drying on words that could have altered both their lives forever. So there we go, guys. Join me tomorrow, first day of July, for chapter 27, Ink and Reputation. So let's see what's going to happen now. Will Thomas take the position he's been offered and leave Lady Caroline, or will they go together and get married? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see, guys. Until then, we got another story tonight, back to our little village of Willowmere, and it is chapter 9, The Secret Beneath the Golden Tree. So let's see what the secret is beneath the golden tree tonight in our story, the little village of Willowmere. And we'll go back tomorrow to see what happens to Lady Caroline and Thomas the chauffeur. Until then, guys, thank you for joining me in Storyteller's Corner. Bye bye for now.